foremost, thank you so much for saying yes to doing this. I don't have a script. I don't have a bunch of notes I want to do. My thing, I reached out last week, and I really just, I'm coming from a place, I want to learn, I want to listen. I'm not trying to even guide this. I have had a bunch of gyms that we work with in our youth empowerment program reach out and kind of saying, like, what do we do? What do we say? And
right.
I'm not that person. I know enough to know that we need to get the answers, but I'm here to learn and listen too. So I kind of want to open up the floor to you. I'll just give you a quick intro. Coach Nelson, someone, you were head of team for the Olympics in 2016, correct?
Yep.
Yes. Own a martial arts school. Work with people in fitness in DC, all ages and all levels. So many things we could talk about that you do. You are constantly talking, helping kind of be a really good, I'll make it too heavy, but a really good moral compass for the Taekwondo community. So someone we respect a lot and first person I reached out to. So with that said, like I said, I don't have the answers. I'm a student first, a teacher second. Where do we start? Where do you want to start? Let's kind of have the conversation and go from there. If anyone has questions, type them up. But
let's just talk.
Let's just talk. Yeah. So
let me start by saying this.
Please.
Man, I'm so proud of you and what you have done. I go back 20 years, man. You were one of the smartest fighters I've ever met in my life. Sitting across from you, I had to always do homework and be ready because you were going to adapt and you were going to change. And I respected the mess out of you then, but I love and respect you times a million now because you've turned it into what Tim does to what Tim helps other people do. And you and Jason, man, are two of my favorite guys, man, for forever. So that's why I'm happy to be a part, happy to lend a voice. And so the reality is there is no script.
Right.
This is absolutely unprecedented time in our country. It is a pandemic with social upheaval sprinkled on top.
Yes.
And either one of those storms is enough to sink your boat. But when you add both of them together, it's a lot. So what I have been saying to colleagues and friends is we're in two separate storms that are not converging to make this superstorm. So we've seen the horrible movies on the Sci-Fi Channel where two storms come together and make a megastorm, and then it's sending sharks out of the water and sharknadoes and all of that kind of foolishness happens, right? So we have the perfect conflagration. We had two really bad things come together. And the issue with the protest now about George Floyd is this is just the latest in a long stream of storms that have been happening, but we haven't been addressing. So we're in really bad storm, but we're in very different boats. And I think that if all of our coaches would just begin to say, I recognize that we're in different boats. We're in, because everybody says we're all in this together. That sounds one way when you're in a rowboat, but it sounds very different when you're on a luxury liner.
Right.
Because a luxury liner has a bigger capacity to withstand change. A rowboat, listen, man, the storm will sink your boat or capsize you, and then you're left to your own devices. So the reality is we're not all in this at the same place in the same way.
Yes.
And we've got to be honest with each other to say, listen, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're in a rowboat or you're on a yacht, or on a sailboat or on a luxury liner? Because for some people, this is the 12 weeks or 10 weeks of loss of income was nothing to them. But to some of us, when gyms close and buildings are closed, there are no resources. And so we all had to shift digitally. How do we do? Now, you, again, are a pioneer in that regard because you've been running a business digitally. You've worked with athletes of mine. You've worked with friends of mine. And I watched you take a guy who was good and turn him into an Olympian. And that was because you digitally connected to him. So first is recognize that the storm is the same storm, but it's different environment for everybody. And I think we got to have those conversations first. just to let somebody know, hey, I recognize that we're in different boats, but we are all out here in this topsy-turvy water together in different boats. Let's kind of make a fleet.
Yeah.
Let's kind of make an armada. Let's bring our ships together.
Yeah.
And so I might be able to handle more than you do. So I'm going to connect to you. I'm going to bring you close to me so that the water doesn't overtake you. And if it does overtake you, come on board. I've got room for you here.
Right. Yeah. I love that. The boat analogy is really powerful, just especially as coaches coming here and working with kids in our program. There's going to be a big spectrum of some that their families, they might have just been on vacation this whole time and it wasn't hard, and some that this time economically was hard, this time socially was hard, and now we're bringing them back in. So right, just navigating those conversations with our students is gonna be challenging. So what advice do you have for coaches as far as when we talk about, I mean, we're not their pastor, we're not the parent, we're the coach. So we do have an important role in their life,
right?
But we're not that person exactly for the group. We're not coming in and like, and so if kids want, I'll get you some milk, honey. Yeah, right, exactly, right.
But see, that's a perfect illustration, Tim, because she's going to come to you when she has a need.
Yes.
Because you represent that safe space for her. Our athletes come to us, and we do them a disservice by saying nothing. Yeah. Now, you could have ignored her, and she's asking, but you could have ignored her, and that just would have been frustrating. Yeah. Even if you say, I'll give it to you in a few minutes, baby, saying something means a lot.
Okay.
And I think coaches, we need to initiate that kind of, hey, little Steven, how are you? How do you feel about what's going on? And just lay microphones out for them figuratively, and let them expunge, let them get it all out, let him dump it all out.
Yep.
I feel terrible. My uncle is a police officer and he feels this kind of way. Let them get that all out. Somebody might feel a certain way about police officers negatively, and they need to have a safe space to get that out, because we can't fix what we don't face. And so if we don't bring it out, how do we know how to correct it?
Yeah.
But they are, trust me, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My 3-year-old has issues, has thoughts about the virus and what she can and cannot do.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So we had, like I'm sure you guys had to, we had to sit down and have a conversation. Why can't you get any closer?
Yes.
Why can't you hug your neighbor across the street who you saw every day going to school? We stop, roll the window down, he give you a high five and tell you be a great student today. Why can't we do that?
Right.
But it starts with, hey, Harper, come here. Mommy and daddy need to talk to you about something. So as coaches, we got to say the same thing. Hey, guys, first day back, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you. Everybody have a seat. Let's talk for a little bit. How are you feeling? Because we've got to get them present to how they feel. Because if they mash down, I don't know, I don't care. It's going to come out later. And whenever we repress it, it never comes out positively. Nobody ever with repressed emotion comes out and paints wonderful pictures and does humanitarian things. No, they usually lash out. Yeah. So I think we start with a conversation.
And how do you suggest we open that conversation up in a way that is both genuine and opening? We're not trying to incite our kids and that. We want to be open and help. So what are some tools you could give? Because some coaches have not ever had to, or I mean, had's the wrong word, have not ever done that. They may have just suppressed it and thought that's not my role. And the times are changing where we don't want to just ignore it if we have kids that are in pain or don't know how to talk about it, or they need someone to talk to or to be heard by. So what would be a good first step in opening that up at all as a coach to your kids?
Again, I go back to this. I think we have our reticence about jumping into this conversation makes us believe that it is more than we're qualified to do.
Okay.
And we are very qualified. You all are very qualified to do this work, because the work really begins with, how are you? Hey, Tim, how are you today? And I'm not asking you to give me your synopsis of the geopolitical structure going on. How does Tim feel today? I feel okay. All right. How do you feel about not being able to finish out the school year? How do you feel about not being able to come to class and come to train? How do you feel about that? And it is time consuming because we got to give Tim the opportunity to really share. Being at home with my sister was fun at first, and then she started getting on my nerves, and then she would eat all the snacks, and then I know, right? Little sisters, man, they do that to you. All right, next person. Hey, Tim, I heard what you said, and I recognize it, and thank you for sharing. Hey, Steve, how do you feel? And it is time consuming. But what it will do, and I've finally gotten our organization to recognize this, what it will do is it will indelibly connect that student to you and your program.
Yes.
Your program is more than kicking and punching, lifting and squatting and pushing. It is now, hey, coach cares about how I feel. So now I need to be prodded to come to practice. I need to be prodded a little less because I want to go where people care about how I feel.
Yeah.
And because in most schools, in classrooms, you're not allowed to voice your feelings. Listen, we got to get this schoolwork done, chop, 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 and let's get out. But I come here, and man, we sat down, and I got to sit down, and I was the only one standing up, and everybody got to listen to me. And I feel empowered because this is a youth empowerment program system that has to, well, we empower them first by giving them a voice.
Yeah.
If I know that your voice matters and your voice carries weight in this building, your voice matters and it carries weight. For them to be able to start there now, and then what they say will guide you in the next step. That will tell you if you have a whole bunch of kids who are traumatized and they may not know how to express trauma other than did it make you on a scale of 1 to 10, like we do with our pain meter?
Yeah, right.
If 0 is I feel fine, 10 is I'm in really bad pain, I'm really upset. How do you feel? And you got a bunch of 9s and 10s, then you know that you need to have conversations with parents because they need to find a way to get their kid connected to a professional.
Right.
Because 9 and 10, listen, in the hospital, if you had a 9 and 10, they give you something.
Yes, a lot.
Like they give you a lot. They don't give you like a pill over the counter. They give you something that you can only get in the hospital.
Yes.
We've got to do that because this has been a trying time. Tim, there are going to be people with levels of post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
And I don't like to call it a disorder because it's a syndrome. But it's going to happen in our children. My toddler acts out randomly because she doesn't have her friends near her.
100%. Yeah.
And so it takes those conversations at breakfast. We'll start. Hey, how do you feel today? Good. What do you want to do today? Express it. And I like the 0 to 10 because it gives us a quantifiable number.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I love that. That's something I think every coach easily can, do to check in with their students while they're coming in. And, you may have ones that you already know are, a little more, need more clockness, need more check-in. I think it's the time that everyone does, the stuff's popping up, right? There's going to be
and as we gradually, I look at it like this: as we gradually open, we have to gradually open the individual. Mm-hmm. As we open the building, we got to open each individual to where they are when they walk in that space. As they walk in, how are they feeling about coming in? There's going to be some, because you're going to have some anxious parents who don't really want them to come back, but they also are tired of them being at home. So that's the reality, because every parent is not designed for 24-hour duty. They're not.
Oh, I've noticed my own fuse where I used to think I have daycare, we have drop off of the grandparents down the street. We moved here to have these things. I don't have them. And I think now I still have a wife. Imagine as I can't imagine as a single parent running companies or working at all the fuse I have for my daughter. Like my fuse has been so much shorter there.
And I have to catch myself because I'm just frustrated because I feel compressed.
Yes.
But it isn't her fault. And she doesn't have what she's used to having. Yeah. I said I've done more work since I've been in the house and can't go to work than I ever did when I went to work. Largely because daycare was there, grandma was there, and I could drop her off, and then she was being educated and all that and entertained. Now, Daddy, do you want to play with me? Yep, I will. And so I'm sitting in the floor playing with the little characters from Frozen, but I have work that I need to do. I have a message that I need to write. I have some emails that I need to send. And if I sit with my phone, she'll say, Daddy, why do you have your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so Daddy's going to give you 30 minutes, and then can Daddy have 30 minutes to work? So we had to make these kind of arrangements so that the family bonds aren't strained. And it's going to take us doing that with people coming into our program. We've got to not strain those bonds by saying, hey, what do you need? Well, first, how are you? Then what do you need? What do you need for me to make you? What do you need to be whole? What do you need to be good? To go from a 10 down to a 1? What do you need? So I just am excited to be back at practice. Great.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
Right.
Good. Let's have a good, vigorous. Let's get your endorphins going. Let's really break a sweat. And I will critique your form and give you positive reinforcement. And then I'll send you out here with some homework. And then you'll go from a 9 down to a 1. And then I bounce to the next one who says, I don't know if I really want to be here. So for you, I need to be a little more engaged and I have to talk to you a little more. And you got to get a whole bunch of high fives, and you don't really get critiques. You just kind of get affirmations. Great job, great job, great job. High five. Well, virtual high five. So we got to practice. And we make up new games and we go, hey, everybody, virtual air high fives.
Right.
You know, and we create things that cause that wall to come down so that they'll engage. But it's a case by case, gym by gym, student by student thing. This is going to be the hardest work that our coaches have had to do.
Yes.
The reintroduction of children after 2.5 months of isolation. You've got to know that that's not going to be a quick fix. All right, let's just run them and let's get them tired, because they got to stay spaced out. And it's not like they could just, you could play paddleball in the old days and we just scrummed and we could get it all out. We can't do that now.
Yep.
So we don't have any of the tricks that we used when we were adults competing, and the stress of being on the national team and going to these events. We don't have a way to get that out now. We've got to keep pivoting, got to keep innovating.
So then what advice do you have then? I 100% agree that anyone thinking they're coming back into the gym is going to work less is totally off base. It's going to be even more. It was more at home was more. Now it'll be even more because we're getting people back in. We're still running hybrid. All these things are happening. So what advice do you have for coaches now to get right? Because if we're there's been days I felt like I'm running at on fumes, right? So many people, and I'm like from the depth.
And I'm sure
to go again, taking some emotional savings to go again. So what advice for coaches to get right for this, both mindset, physically, etc.?
It is a coaches are going to have to become, I want to say this, I'm going to have to explain it when I say it. They're going to have to become a little more selfish. And by selfish, I don't mean selfish in the negative connotation, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I know that you have probably been on fumes because I know your work ethic and I know how hard you go. And when I've come to you with questions out the blue, you gave me all the attention like I was the only person. And I know you have hundreds of other clients, but you treat everyone like they're the only one. And that's what makes great coaches. But an empty cup, it doesn't have anything to pour. So coaches are going to have to you're going to have to be structured. You're going to have to be selfish. And then you're going to have to be gentle. Gentle with yourself, gentle with others. Give yourself permission to not accomplish your to-do list. Take your to-do list and chop it into 8 to-do lists. And so give yourself, you know what, I got 5 of these 8 things done. I had a really good day today. Normally I'd like to get all 8 done, but I've got to have enough time for me to recharge my batteries. We have children. Our jobs can't make us less poor performing fathers. Right. It cannot, because they didn't ask for your job. Right. They didn't ask to be here. Number one, you are the first man she's going to fall in love with, be in love with. She needs 100% dad, but your clients and your business and your mortgage needs 100% of the great innovative Tim.
Yes.
You've got to know when I've got too much now and I've got to say no to a couple things.
Yep.
And that's what I mean by selfish, because you only have 24 hours in a day. People say, well, you know, we got to give 120%. There's no such thing as more than your all.
Right.
If you're giving 120, you were really only giving 80 before, because you there's no way I can give Sherman plus. There's no extra Sherman.
Yeah.
When we collapse and we're laying on the ground and our wives come in and go, oh my gosh, then everything stops. So before we get there, let's take time, make time. And coaches, I admonish you, if you hear my voice, make time for yourself. If it is nothing but sitting there, ain't nothing good to watch on TV anyway. So you can watch, they're replaying old 1995 basketball series.
Right.
So sit back for a minute and unplug. Put your phone down. It's not going to be an emergency. You got an instructor that's going crazy. That's okay. They'll still be crazy tomorrow. And just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit out on the deck, or I'm going to go take a drive. But you've got to give yourself permission to think of yourself. And I always am nervous when I say this. The Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. The prerequisite to that is loving yourself. So if you don't have the capacity to love you, there's no way you can love me.
Right.
There's no way, because you're not with me all the time.
Yeah.
You with you all the time. And if you can't find a way to love you and care for you, then you won't care for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the analogy of putting the mask on yourself first on an airplane than someone else, right?
And I especially hear moms say, well, I'm going to take care of my child first. What if you pass out?
Yeah.
Then your child's left unprepared.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Give yourself the capacity to really take care of your child.
Mm-hmm.
So that mask is a wonderful analogy for life. But it's hard when we're A personalities and we're overachievers and we're driven. It's difficult to say no, because I think I can handle it, because it needs to be done, because this is my gift.
Right.
This is my calling. But it doesn't matter if you're called to do it, gifted to do it, anointed to do it, appointed to do it. You still have 24 hours and you still are just a person. And you got to give yourself permission to think of yourself, not more than others, but as much as others.
Yeah. I think so many coaches are going to fall into that area, trying to come back in, running everything. So that's
and I understand.
Honestly,
part of it
write
is
that down.
I gotta try to win people back and make sure there's no attrition, because listen, this is a business. It needs people to run.
Right.
And I get that. And so just if you my dad used to always say, don't be so concerned with making a living that you forget to have a life.
Right. Uh-huh.
And you're so driven to get customers, but then you fade away.
Yes.
And then your product suffers because you faded away.
Right.
And then you're going to have the same attrition rates that you were going to have anyway.
The same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I love it. How do we, can you give us some guidance on how we've been talking about how to talk to these kids about what's been happening. How do we act on it? Like, what are things that you think can be done here? What things you might be overstepping? Like, okay, that's too much. Like, we're obviously not taking our 4 o'clock class to go lock arms and chain ourselves to a tree. That's probably outside of our scope. But what are things that can maybe be done, so it's not just words, but also some type of deeds that also would fit in line with what our roles are? Yeah.
I think we start with, can we be kind to everybody? Can we recognize that Coach Tim and Coach Sherman are 2 different colors? They come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different ethnicities. But we're going to be kind to both of them.
Yes.
Because we love both of them.
Yeah.
They don't have to look the same to be treated the same. With children especially, because we really program them to discriminate. Instinctively, they just play with anybody who's nice to them, who's kind to them. We have to teach them, well, no, don't play with them because they're from a different part of town, or don't play with them, they have a different religious background. If they're not committing an actual sacrifice on me, what difference does it make their religious background? So we teach them that. The reality is we are 99.1% the same. 99.91% the same.
Yep.
The 0.09 difference, man, that's negligible. I will give you 0.09 of every 100 that I have, because it doesn't even make a difference. So it starts with, hey, let's be kind to one another. And then it progresses to, and let's protect one another. So I'm not going to let people talk bad or do bad things to Coach Tim, because that's not being nice to him.
Right.
So if that means I have to go stand up for him, and then I come to him and say, hey, I'm not going to let those people do you. I'm not going to let them be mean to you. It's easy to stand up. Well, for some people, it's easy to stand up for yourself. And for others, it's easier to stand up externally. We got to do both.
Right.
We got to require that people, hey, be nice to me. Why? Because I'm nice to you. And I talked about this earlier today. We tend to be mean and prejudiced and unkind to others until we need them to be kind to us. And so we don't have to draw any posters. We don't have to make any Black Lives Matters armbands. We don't have to do all of that yet, because for children, they just need to learn. Let's reprogram them. Be kind to one another. Protect one another and support one another. Irrespective. Absolutely. The reality is there's only one race of people. So we're different races. It's just dumb. We're just the same. It's like a Chevy Tahoe in different colors.
Right.
But it's still a Chevy Tahoe. It just has, one has the SE kit, one has the other kit, one has the tent, one has 20s, one has 24. But they're all still
what you got from GM, and you're like, it's still a Chevy Tahoe if it's from GM. It's the same factory, man.
It's still the exact. You got the old one that the Secret Service used to have, so it has the extra thick glass on it.
Yeah.
But it's still a Chevy Tahoe. Yes. People are people. We can now, with adults we have a different conversation, because we need to dismantle some things. But with children, we're gonna be kind, we're gonna protect, and we're gonna support one another. Always. I want people who, it doesn't matter what they look like. If you only have to protect them if they're a person. If they qualify by meeting that requirement, if they're a person, then you got to be kind, you got to protect, and you got to support. But he's a tall guy, and his skin is really dark. I know, you just got to be kind. He's tall, so you got to have a lot of kindness and a lot of protection and a lot of support.
Yeah, that is really, like, that right there was, I think, for me, what I was looking for with this that I couldn't verbalize. Like, how do we communicate that with them in a way that, honors who we are?
That's easy for them to eat, right?
That gets them, that we're meeting them where they're at, right? We're talking to them personally about what they're doing there. And that, I agree, Coach Sarah, people are commenting here. I totally agree. That is kind of nails it.
And it requires personal accountability.
Yes.
You can say, were you nice today?
Mm-hmm.
Did you protect someone today?
Yeah.
Did you support someone today? Because the more we can start talking about what I do, if the conversation is always about what they have done and we have done and we use every other pronoun other than I. I am kind today. I am protective today. I am supportive today. And let's move forward. And that's a part of I know accountability is, listen, we've been in the sport long enough, in the industry of fitness long enough. Accountability is critical. If you're not going to do the work, then you don't need a plan. You need to make a decision to be accountable, and then we can get you a plan. But it starts with, I will be accountable to somebody.
Yeah. Without that, all the plan in the world doesn't matter, right? You write someone a perfect plan, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to fill out their training log. They're not going to be coachable. Then the plan is,
and they're gonna blame it, and they're gonna blame it on everybody else.
Yeah.
Man, the man is oppressing me, man. That's why I can't work out. Really? Is the man actually saying, do not do your squats, do not stretch? Is the man telling you not to lift that weight? Is that what he's really doing?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, man.
You got to go back to the Mike MJ had a song, man. You got to go to the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's the man that's oppressing you, because that man will set you free up here, and in here. And then it doesn't matter what the other, because the world is always going to be kooky. It's always going to be kooky. You have too many people. One person is great. A whole bunch of people are terrible, because they're going to always follow the wrong advice. We're going to always go sideways. We're going to always victimize somebody. But if I decide that I am going to be kind, protect, and support, then I sleep good at night, because my conscience is clear. because I did all that I could do. And that's how we change the system. It takes a million eyes all saying that together will decide, hey, we're not going to vote for people whose legislation is not kind, protective, and supportive. Hey, we're not going to support a business that is not kind, protective, and supportive. A million people of the same mindset can do amazing things. Yeah. Amazing things.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I don't know what to add. When you nail it, it's like, yes. Just, I'm not going to also be like, also, yeah, me. I agree also. The last question I had, the only one I really wrote down was, what do we do as coaches if we don't have an answer for something, or something feels like we're just not sure what to say or do? A kid comes to us with whatever type of thing, we don't know what to do. We're like,
my uncle was killed by the cops. Yes. Man. How should I feel about that?
Yep.
You know what?
Yep.
Let me think about that. Let me take a moment and think about that. And you'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be back with let's have our conversation tomorrow. I'd love to have that conversation with you because I want to know how you feel. Yeah. Rather than saying the wrong thing, take a second. Just like when we were fighting and you would lose, we'd feel the momentum swing. Yeah. Then I need to either go out of bounds or fix an arm guard or shin guard, or I'm waiting on that Gaman to come in so I can have that break in between rounds so I can let me just get out of here because the momentum has swung away. Mm-hmm. All right, get back to center, get back to my coach. All right, let's go back out there. I know I did it. I watched you do it. Every champion needs to know when to take a 20 and when to take a full timeout. Right. And sometimes these kids are going to ask us hard questions, and that's a badge of honor that they come to you with the hard stuff, not the cookie. Everybody can ask you the cookies. What do you think about the sunshine today? Yeah. That doesn't mean that they trust you. But when they say, my heart is grieving and I'm coming to you, hey, I appreciate that. And let me take tonight and think about it so I can give you a really good answer. And tomorrow, let's have a sit down and talk about it. And then you find some friends who are like, hey, thoughts on this? How do I process this? And it doesn't have to be the right answer. They just want an answer. So I say, if they come to you with something that you can't handle in the moment, take a second. Yeah. Take a second. But make a date and keep the date to get back to them. Because a promise broken is worse than a bad answer.
Gotcha. I love that. And it kind of goes in line with taking care of yourself, giving yourself permission to, if you don't get everything done on your schedule today, that you've got to still, move forward. But we're not kicking it, you're not going to not get it done. You're just going to move it to the next day.
We don't move it to next week.
You're right.
We just move it to tomorrow. Yep. Right.
I love it. Well, Coach, thank you so much. Like I said, we went way over on time. I'm so grateful for you. We are all grateful and respectful of your time and your knowledge. So thank you very much.
Listen, it is. I don't have a whole bunch of knowledge. I've made a whole bunch of mistakes in my life, Tim. I've messed up a lot of stuff and broken a lot of things and a lot of people. But I am grateful for the opportunity to be rehabilitated and to do it over and to make amends. And so and at the end of the day, I'm going to always be as frank as I can be.
Yes.
I'm going to be as honest as I can be, because that's how much I value and respect you, to give you the absolute best answer. I could give you the cookie cutter stuff and I could sound really good. And then everybody would be like, that sounded like all the little self-help people on.
Sure.
No, these conversations are going to be hard. Conversations about race and class are hard to have, but they must be had. Yeah. And people will have it with you if you really want to have a conversation. But if you don't, if you just want to beat me up, why would I put my face out there for you to kick it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. But if you actually want to go dig down and let us discover, then let's do it. And we can walk. And I operate from this. I cannot convince you and I cannot convert you. I cannot make you believe what I believe. I cannot change your way of thinking. I can convey with you what I have experienced and what I believe. And if we can both do that and agree to walk away, not enemies, then it was great. It's icing on the cake when you're friends. So I'm friends with you. So this is a great thing to do, to share with our friends. But even if we're enemies, if we can come together and not be mad that the person didn't.
Well, thank you so much. If people want to follow you and learn more about this, what are the best places for them to follow and engage with you?
I'm on all social media platforms at Sherman M. Nelson 2. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Gotcha.
I get requests, I get prayer requests, I get requests I get all of that. I don't care. That's my life. Again, my life, the point of my life is to share, to pour into people. And that's why I love coaching. That's why I love what I'm doing now. And that's what I think this moment needs. It needs people not on a soapbox, not pointing my finger, telling you what you're not doing, just saying, hey, man, listen, this is some hard stuff, but let's talk about it. Our children, and being a dad helps me want to know I need to raise a kid who can love everybody and be okay when people don't love her back. And so that's it.
I love it, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Be kind, be protective, be supportive.
That's it. And make time for yourself. And you'll be a coaches. You guys, listen, y'all are in some of the greatest hands in the world. You all ought to be making billions of dollars if money was tied to impact. Yeah. But just know that generations of people will be made better because of the work that y'all are doing right now, man.
Well, thank you. Sir.
And so for the rest of my days, I'm always on your side. I will always be here when you call. I will always answer.
Well, that means the world to me. It means the world to us. So thank you for helping so many of us navigate through this. I know we'll lean on you in the future. Thank you for everything you do for us and more.
Always.
So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. My man. Thank
you. Yeah, you too.
Thank you, buddy.
Say hey to the family
for me. Best for the girls. Thank you.
All right.